Oh, what's happening, you amazing people? It is your pal, your friend, your coach, your recruiter friend, Phil Davis over at FulPhillment. It is Fulfillment Live, Season 2, Episode 4, which I can't believe. So, thank you all so very much for being here. I can't believe this week is pretty much almost over. So, and it's a nice spring day down here in Atlanta where we are tuning in. Folks, if you're in the live, please, we want to hear from you. So, send us a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what's going on this week, all that good stuff. And we, of course, want to hear from you, learn from you as well, because again, this is all about community. This is all about learning, collaboration. And I wanted to bring up my next awesome, amazing friend and special guest this week to just talk a lot about LinkedIn, right? Like LinkedIn on not only a career job seeker side, but within her realm of business as well on the employment side, right? And why LinkedIn and how LinkedIn is so very, very important to use in your business. And so Rachel Simon, my awesome friend, she's here in Atlanta. We have lunch a couple times a year. Every quarter, we go downtown at our same little spot, which is about 20 minutes away from each other, and she is incredible. So, who is she, right? So, she is the founder and CEO, LinkedIn content strategist, awesome powerhouse over at her business, Connect the Dots Digital, which is a LinkedIn training consultancy strategic company. And in this company, she helps organizations, right, leverage their teams to listen to this, to powerfully position their brand messaging on LinkedIn to attract the best talent, to connect organically, right, with ideal clients. So just it's amazing and stand out, right? To stand out as a leader within their industry. So I definitely want to hear more about that, and I know you all as you all do as well. So we've got some folks coming in on the comments, so definitely keep them coming in. We've got our good friend Brian Fink. Thank you for joining us, my friend. Steven over there as well. Thanks for being in, man, from New York. Brian's from Atlanta as well. So we got some awesome local folks coming in as well. But keep them coming. We definitely want you all to let us these. We love doing these every week or every other week and stuff like that. So we're going to bring Rachel to the stage. Rachel, you are live, my friend. How's it
Hello.
going?
Great. And I'm gonna hire you as my full-time hype man.
Oh, stop it. No, I appreciate it. I mean, look, right? It's I love bringing people up, right? And having them share to, our community here, not only their expertise, but their value and just people that can really help my network, but then also help their network as well, right? Because as we both know, it's all about community. And so it's definitely been my pleasure for the introduction. So how's the week going for you?
The week is good. Just I'm ready for the weekend. Very
I
ready for the
hear
weekend.
you.
And we have like finally nice weather.
Right? I know. Yeah. It was a little bit hotter a couple weeks back, but now like with all the rain and the almost torrential downpours that we've at least had here, it's been getting a little bit more cooler down and stuff like that, like true spring day. So we've got
Yes, for sure.
Alexandrina. I want to bring her up too as well. Hey, friend, very excited to be a part of this. Many thanks. Tuning from Africa. This is
Wow.
amazing. Global outreach, right? This is what it's all about. So and bear with me, friends. I know, like folks know here, that I've been kind of going through a cold, so I may cough a little bit. But I really want to put the stage on you, and really just I always like to ask people that come up, right? Like, give us your pitch, right? Who are you? What do you do? What do you enjoy? Those kind of stuff, and we'll just go from there.
Uh, sure. So first of all, thanks for having me on the show. I always love the opportunity to jump on with friends doing their LinkedIn lives and podcasts and all that fun stuff. So, like you said in the intro, I'm a LinkedIn trainer and consultant. And so my focus is really on positioning. And positioning, what I mean by that is a lot of times, people are like, okay, I'm going to start. I've had this profile for a while. I'm going to start using it. And they are like, I'm going to start posting content or I'm going to start connecting with people. But they haven't gone back to the initial step one, which is what does my profile look like, right? So the thing about our beloved platform is that it is changing rapidly. And, I love to share these stats from thanks to probably our mutual LinkedIn connection, Kevin D. Turner,
Mm-hmm.
who tracks all the new features on LinkedIn. So in 2021, he identified through the community in general about 60 new features that rolled out. In 2022, there were about 100 new features. We're less than, a month into Q2, and there's already 70 new features that have rolled out. So most normal, like who can keep up with that, right? So if somebody wrote their profile even 2 years ago, which I would still consider to be pretty modern, but we have people that haven't updated their profile probably in 5+ years. There's so many new components, so many new tools. The strategies have changed. So it's so important to go back to that foundational aspect of, does your profile adequately represent who you are and what you do for your target audience?
Oof. Can you that I was like who like say that like question one more time, like that is huge.
Does your profile adequately represent who you are and what you
Yeah.
do for your target audience?
Who you are and what you do. Like that is that. I mean, obviously we're gonna dig deep into that because I think a lot of what a lot of what I hear from some of my clients and people that just reach out like through networking, a lot of times they're like, hey, like you said, like I'm gonna kind of piggyback a little bit, where it's like I've had my LinkedIn profile, like case in point, right? When I graduated college, um, back in 2011, I'll age myself, it's fine. And I just had my profile, like, but I didn't do anything with it until COVID and the pandemic, right? As far as like actually getting out here, doing content and stuff like that. And I remember for me personally, it was a struggle and it was really difficult because, well, we talk about like imposter syndrome and we talk about just kind of like, oh, what are people going to think and stuff. But I guess for those listening in the audience, here on the replay, like, how can what's your approach, I guess, to helping them to kind of define like who they are and what they do, and to show it in a way that helps them position themselves here, that makes them different, because there's over 900 million people on the platform now, right? So we've got to find ways to differentiate. But how do you go about doing that with folks?
Yeah. So when I'm working with my clients, so I do, kind of group work, working with teams to get them trained, but then I also do a lot of one-on-one work, helping people write their profiles, do coaching on how do you use LinkedIn once your profile is up and running. And it's a process. I mean, it's really, when I'm working with my clients, I interview them. I take the recorded transcript of that conversation and I pull out those pieces where they're not only talking about what they do to showcase their expertise, but their unique take on it, right? So that's one of the changes, I think, very positive changes that we've seen. And COVID definitely helped facilitate this on LinkedIn, is that people are bringing more of themselves, their personality to the platform. And that's a good thing, right? Because before, you'd go to a conference, you'd go to a networking event. You don't stand there like a robot and like, this is what I do. I sell these things. Like, you break the ice with
Uh-huh.
what are you into, like, if you're in Atlanta, you talk about something related to where you live, or like something newsworthy, or just whatever, something that's going to help break the ice. So now we can bring some of that to our profiles. And that's really where that is, that balance between showcasing your expertise and the value you offer to your target audience, whoever that might be, with who are you? Like, what are you all about, right? Like, makes you unique and special? There's tons of career coaches, but you have this branding where you've infused music into your brand, and that is unique and special, right? So that's a distinguishing piece for you. There's a million LinkedIn trainers. There's so many of us, but there's only one me who approaches it the way I approach it. So
Mm.
I'm going to be the right fit for some people, and then one of my other esteemed colleagues will be the right fit for somebody else. Like, just have to kind of make that distinction.
I love that, and I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I think I said this. I remember I said this in a comment a while back, like because and I completely agree with you. Like we're all unique and we're all different, and we all have value to bring. We all have stories to share. We all have impact to give. Right, this community, like in an amazing amount of capacity, right? It's not like, oh, we're just kind of here hanging. Like we all have value, value for value, support for support all the time, right? And so I love your aspect of like, showcasing your expertise, showcasing your uniqueness in a way that is easy to understand, others to understand, is clear, that targets that audience you're looking at, and also, how you're different, right? So like who you are, what you do, who you serve, and what makes you different, and sharing that in a way that um, folks will resonate with that. I guess like let's like change gears a little bit on like the imposter syndrome side, right? Because as we know, right, it can be very intimidating to get out on LinkedIn. I'm still one that sometimes I get intimidated, right? If there's something vulnerable that I have to share, that's sometimes in my mind, I'm like, okay, like, oh, what are people going to think about it? Like, I know it's an important message that I have to share, but I still have that nugget of, okay, imposter syndrome, or how can I get past that, right? So with your clients, like, on a business perspective, and those folks that you work with, like, and leaders and stuff, the ones that are like, I know I want to get out there, but they may have that imposter syndrome. Like, how do you help them get past it so that they do get out there and they're still, they're themselves when they do, right?
Yeah, it's for real. I mean, I don't think there's a single person out there that doesn't isn't just like, I've got this. Like, we all feel that imposter syndrome creep up at times. And I know, I mean, I've definitely had it, it comes and goes in waves, right? And sometimes it might be seeing somebody who's in the same space as you crushing it, and you're like, oh, what about me? Like, they're doing so much better than me. Or again, feeling like, what will people think if I talk about whatever topic? So this is going to sound kind of funny. I would give the advice I have given to I have two teenagers, boy, girl, very different personalities, to my daughter. Uh, and she's learned over the years, what what you think people think about you is not what people really think about you, right? Like, you assume everyone's thinking about you all of the time. And what I've said to her, and what I would kind of the advice I would give, is that, to be honest, you're not that important. Like, people are not obsessing over your LinkedIn post unless you write something that's just totally super controversial.
Sure.
Then it might be, but you know just do your thing. I mean, and the beauty of LinkedIn is that if you write a post and it doesn't really go that far, like, nobody isn't gonna, no one cares. Like, nobody's going to be like, oh, they're a failure because they didn't get their post didn't go viral. And the beauty is, if you have a post that really didn't do great, you can take that content and try to figure out, well, maybe was it the wrong time of day? Do I need to change the format? Should it have been, did I need to add a visual, or should I maybe talk about it in a video? Like, how can I take this content that is valuable content and kind of mix it up, zhuzh up the recipe a little bit, and
Hmm.
see if you can improve it? Because if only, 200 people saw your post, and you have 2,000 people in your network and then some, no one's going to remember. It's fine. Just reuse that content. So I think it's like taking our personal feelings out of the equation and not getting hung up on things that we can't control.
Oof. Taking your personal feelings out of the equation. Yeah, I love that. Um, And I love like your kind of like your aspect of, who cares, like it's the folks out there who are going to resonate with you and engage with you and give you that energy are the ones that are going to care, but the ones that are part of
Exactly.
your community. Yeah, what I'm trying to go with that. We've got Jason in the house too, Jason Hopper here. Thanks for being here, my friend, from North Dallas. So we got folks all around, which is amazing. We got Dallas, we got New York, got Africa, we got Atlanta. I mean, it's just like mirror. But the thing that's the power of these things. That's why I love doing these so much. And Jason also says here, plus you've probably gotten new connections who did not see it the first time. Yeah, those second, third degree
Absolutely.
connections. 1,000%. Yes. Yes. And I guess to that point, can we talk about that, right? Because sometimes if you get a post out there or you're commenting, right? If you're like getting a comment out that's commenting with intention, commenting with purpose, sometimes you'll get people that are like second or third degree connections or whatnot, and they may engage with you. So how obviously that's part of the aspect of networking and stuff on LinkedIn. But how do you go about like connecting with those people? So like for example, you know what I mean? Like they're
Mhm.
commenting on something that I'm saying, like sharing as a post or as a comment, and they may be like, "Oh, I really like that." How can that person then reach out to them and establish a good solid connection with that person?
Yeah, so I love that question. A couple of good strategies really are um, a few things. So let's say, and I did this myself when I was first getting started, right? I followed a lot of the the biggies, right? The big LinkedIn trainers out there.
Uh-huh.
I followed them and I would comment on their posts because I wanted to learn from them and I wanted them to get to know me, right? So when you start to engage with people's content that you're not connected to, and this is a strategy that works for whether you're doing business development or you're recruiting talent or you are a job seeker. So let's say I'll use the job seeker example. Let's say there's a company that you really want to work for, and there's an employee there who could be potentially like you want to work in such and such department and they have somebody on their team that's super active on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
By commenting on that person's post, they will start to notice you. And then you can build that rapport by sending a DM to them that says, "Hey, Phil, I see you work at XYZ company. I my one of my dreams is to work for that company. Like, do you have any advice for me? Or what's your experience been working there?" Right? Keep it real casual. And then you can kind of build that rapport through the DMs. And then sometimes that person will send you a connection request, or you can open the door to send one yourself. So, building that relationship by engaging with the right people in a meaningful way is really great. As the content creator, if people that are second or third degree connections are engaging with your content, that also is a great opportunity to just send them a connection request to say, "Hey, Phil, thank you so much for commenting on my post. I really appreciate it. I'd love to connect."
Hmm.
You know, keep it casual. That's always like the best advice in the DMs. Like, because when you don't keep it casual, that's when you get those messages that are like, "Blah, blah, blah, blah. Here's all my links to everything.
Yeah.
Here's my blog, and here's my Calendly link," and you're like, and the receiver's like, "Whoa."
Like, yeah, that state of overwhelmment, right? Like I remember yesterday, um, for some reason, like I get a lot of, I mean, obviously everybody on this platform, they get like everybody I've talked to, and I'm sure like everybody here listening and stuff, they get a ton of sales pitches, the cold pitches, the stuff like that, all the links and things like that. And for some reason yesterday, it's like I got probably 4 or 5 different cold pitches, in mail messages, people reaching out,
Ugh.
sending me links. I get a lot of VA work, like, are you looking for a virtual assistant? Because I run business, and that kind of stuff. And, I say no thanks, thanks, but no thanks, not at this time. I don't need an assistant. I'm managing everything myself. You know, thanks, best wishes, and good luck. Then they go out and they'll respond and say, well, when you're ready, here's my calendar link, schedule time. And then I entertained one of them. I said, well, what makes you different? Like, I get all these different VA people reaching out all the time. Like, what makes you different? Like, why are you different? Why should I even consider reaching out, right? And stuff like that and talking. But it can be overwhelming. And I really, really love, especially on the job seeker part, and I have to say this again just because this is something that I tell my clients to do all the time. And obviously like following the companies, those target companies you want to work for, engaging with those recruiters, those hiring managers, those leaders that are active. I think that's such a good point. The ones that are on here all the time or on here quite often, we'll just say, the ones that are commenting on employee posts, like those are the ones I love to look at. If I'm looking at a leader and they're engaging on employees' posts, like within that company, I may want to look at them a little bit. Say, I really
Mm-hmm.
like that a lot. That resonates with me because there may be an employee value that they're practicing at said company, right? And so, and especially the reach out, like keeping it easy and consistent. I love that. Like, hey, thank you so much for commenting on my post. I love to love to connect. Like simple, easy, effective, and 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 really, people will remember who comments on your work. I know that I do, and I think the other thing too, on a kind of on a motivational perspective, like don't be discouraged, right? When you do reach out to people, and it may take them some time to get back to you, right? Like us, we're all busy, we all have things happening. But I also think it's very important, so they may not reach out right away if you do a connection request. And if they don't, that's okay too. But
Yeah.
if they do
And you don't
respond,
know
yeah,
how often people are logging in. Like, not everybody
yeah,
lives on LinkedIn the way you and I do. So some people
yeah,
spend time on, they may not look at LinkedIn every single day. I
yeah.
want to go back to about the importance, though, of your profile, because if you're spending time commenting and sending connection requests and sending those DMs, those casual but effective DMs, and your profile's not dialed in, the person receiving them has to work harder to figure out why you're reaching out to them. So that's why that positioning is so, so important. You want it to be crystal clear. Remember, when you're active on LinkedIn, meaning like the what people will see in the news feed in a comment is the first 40 to 50 characters of your headline. So front loading that with the most important message that you want to convey is really, really important. So getting that dialed in, making sure that your profile photo is visible to people outside your network. Double check this, everybody. Really important. Every time I do a training, I bring this up, and every single time I've never done a training where I didn't have somebody that realized that their photo was not visible because they had the setting incorrect.
Hmm.
Those little things make a huge difference. You don't want to be a gray blob to the people that you want to be engaging with.
Hmm. I love it, and it's such a good reminder too, because even like going to those profile settings and doing an audit. Like I do an audit monthly, like at the end of
Oof.
the month, every month. I look at everything every month, and I'll like, okay, what do I like? Certain elements of my about section. Do I like my headline? Do I want to just make fine tune changes? Is my messaging clear? That's important. I want to bring some comments up because we've had some really powerful ones coming. I know Steven here, our friend Stephen Eng, had messaged, and he said, I was absent from LinkedIn most of last month while house hunting. I'm easing back in with a different perspective, corresponding to what you just stated. Detach yourself from the monetary outcomes of specific posts. Content creation is a long game.
Amen. For sure. It is a long game. And like, I think that's such an important mindset to come to LinkedIn with, or to come back to it, is that this stuff takes a long time.
Yeah.
And I always use the analogy of working out, because same thing, right? You don't walk into the gym and pick up the heaviest barbell, because you'll never come back, because you'll be at the chiropractor for the next 2 months. You pick up the 10-pound weights, and then you pick up the 12-pound, and then the 15, and then you build yourself up to that heavy barbell. So, you're not going to put out a post and have all these amazing things happen. I mean, you have to spend the time and be consistent, and that consistency is what's going to get you the wins, not just action for the sake of action.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm just here to be here. Like, why are you here?
What is your goal?
What is
Right.
your goal? Yeah. There you go. Yeah. what is your long-term goal, right?
Hmm. And for
Yeah.
some, it's different for everybody. Or you have multiple goals, right? Like somebody's initial goal might be, I'm looking for my next position, but once they secure it, then their goal could shift to, I want to become a thought leader in my industry, or I want to
Mhm.
connect with like-minded people in my field to learn more from them. You know, your goals are going to change and shift over time, but identifying what those goals are is really important because, to your point, you may need to update aspects of your profile to meet whatever your current goal is.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I love how you said, I was just reflecting there for a second. Like I love how, because you're making me think a lot. Because I've got goals now, but it's like, well, you're making me think of other goals I could do in the future. Like that's the power of these lives, because it's just like I have a goal to get out a newsletter, but now I'm like, well, there's other things within that newsletter that I know I want to do. That's why I haven't launched it yet. I love it. I love it. And the other thing too, Jason said here as well. I love when folks engage in my content,
Well,
because yeah,
yeah, who doesn't?
I mean, well, because content brings out a meaningful and effective content yields meaningful and effective conversation, right? So it's trans. I always say this a lot. Transformational relationship building versus transactional building, right? And sometimes I know with LinkedIn, sometimes it can seem like it's a transactional back and forth, but that's if comments in my mind are like, oh, I agree. Oh, I love this post. Oh, it's great. Those are kind of like just those transactional comments,
Hmm.
whatever. Um, but when you actually say stuff that's big, like Steven's example here, we'll just say, hey, I was out, house hunting last month. Here's his story, but now he's coming back in with a different perspective. He's had some time to reflect. He's had personal things he's had to do, and now he's back in stronger than ever, in it for the long haul. Like this is an effective comment, and we
Yeah, and
appreciate you
that,
sharing that. Yeah,
and
totally.
Stephen, you could turn that into its own post and talking about, how the perspective that you have from being on a break and coming back, and sort of, what are those things that you're going to change in the way that you are approaching LinkedIn and changing your strategy because you are seeing it a different way.
Hmm.
Right. So you can
Yeah.
take great comments and turn those into their own posts.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that.
You can't do that with a thanks. Right.
I agree. Well, I agree to that statement. So I guess I could say that here.
So insightful.
I I agree to that. No, but yeah, absolutely. Like a 1,000%. Um, that's huge. Yeah, that's huge. Um, and then Jason from prior. Yeah, no one likes that DM info dump. Yeah, absolutely. Like,
I got one time. I
it's like,
swear,
yeah.
I've never seen one like it. It was three links in one intro.
Ugh,
You know, I connected with this person,
uh,
and they sent me a link to something to download, a link to their blog, and a link to their calendar. And I promptly disconnected from that person. I was like, okay,
mm-mm,
no,
no,
this is not going to go well.
no. 4 cold emails yesterday for VA stuff. Yeah, it's all out there. Absolutely. Jason too. Thanks, Stephen and Jason, for keeping us going. This is awesome. See, it's like they are absolutely, they are
And I get it.
everywhere.
People have to do their jobs. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want it to be overly critical to the people that send this stuff out,
sure.
because they have to do their job. They get pressure from above to, send a certain amount of outreach. Uh, but I wish that they understood there's a better way of doing it. Like the long term, doing it for the long haul is more effective than just kind of dialing for dollars for the sake of, another, you know what I mean by that? Like
Sure.
just like spaghetti at the wall approach. Because while they may get one for every 100, if they're in it for the long haul, they might get 10 for every 50 if they do it the right way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. bring Jason's stuff here. The only thing you can control is the process. Yeah, you can only, and that's the thing, you can only control what you can control, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't control what other people are going to say. You can't control what other people are going to do. You can only stay, my wife Kelsey and I, we say all the time, stay in your lane, right? Just stay in your lane, do what you do best, share your value, share your uniqueness. And again, those people out there who resonate with you and who like your energy, in this case, my quirkiness, like whatever, they'll be around. They'll hang out. Um, Jason also too is as far as the profile picture stuff. I just I just had a conversation about a client's profile this morning. She had no idea that it was not visible. Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to people
Yep.
inside and outside your network.
It happens all the time.
Put in the work. I mean, we appreciate all this stuff. This is great. I've had whole conversations in the comments. Jason did have a question too. I want to bring this up. What is the most effective way to tell a story?
Oh gosh. That's a good question.
Yeah.
So I will say somebody who is there's a couple people that are in my network that are, I think, expert storytellers. So Bobby Umar, if you follow
Yes.
Bobby, is an amazing storyteller.
Yep.
And Matt Zahn is also an amazing storyteller. And his business is he teaches people, businesses, how to use storytelling to help them succeed. I think that I know for me, when I've used storytelling in my content, I always try to connect it into some lesson, right? So not a story for the sake of telling a story, but what is my point in sharing this story? So, I often will use something from my, like my kids who both are high school athletes. So, what have I learned from watching them compete over the years? Or my dad, who, he passed away many years ago, but a lot of lessons I learned about community and leadership from him. So, how can I tie it into something relatable and to have some sort of business component to it, right? No. So if I was just telling a story for the sake of telling a story about something cute my kid did, I would put that on Facebook.
Yep.
But I want to tie it back to something that is going to be of value for the LinkedIn community.
Oof,
So
yes.
maybe that helps.
Yes. Relatable, a story that has a lesson or an experience point behind it that somebody out in the network can take something from to have a value to them. Value for value, support for support. I will not stop saying that. I won't, because it's so important. And yes, you hear it all the time. Oh, LinkedIn's becoming Facebook, and yeah, in a way it is, right? Because you've got people out there that they're posting to post, and if that's their way, then that's their way, right? That's their lane. That's what they want to do. Cool. But as far as like the job search, the tools of sharing content around your expertise and these ways you said here, having it be relatable, have it to share a story that has a lesson behind it, and sharing value, then those employers, they will see that value and they'll want to reach out, right? I mean, I say that wholeheartedly as a recruiter myself. Like if I see content out there and it's somebody sharing stuff around their expertise that, hey, I may be looking for a creative director and my client I'm working with is a creative director. So, for example, I'm just getting this as an example. And I see that there's something he's doing where maybe he did like a contract assignment and he's going to share that out on his community, which, yes, I've asked him to do that. So I'm actually saying a true like thing we're doing, like, hey, just share your experience, right, with a contract assignment you just did for one of your companies and how you added value to them and share it out there. And then if you um, you get conversations going, then have that be a work sample on an email or on a LinkedIn message, or say, hey, here's an awesome recent post I just did around a project that I just did that's relatable to the job that you're looking to fill. Easy.
Yeah. And
Right?
I think also to kind of pick up on that, it doesn't always have to be about your personal expertise. I mean, maybe you are involved in something in your community and the value of that volunteer role or that value of that cause or organization that you're involved with is going to connect in to the values of a target company or to a target client, something along those lines, right? So pulling back the curtain to show a little bit about what you're personally interested in. Like maybe you're you're a foster for dogs, right? You're a dog rescue foster family. Well, that might really resonate with somebody who you want to work with because they adopted their dog from a rescue organization. Like you just
Mm,
don't know, right? So I think not being afraid to kind of show a little bit about what you're all about. I will put a caveat on that that does not include. Now, this is my personal opinion. I would keep politics and religion out of it for the
yeah.
most part. I mean, you could talk about. I've talked about like things. I served on my synagogue board, so maybe not as much on the religion side, but the politics side, unless you work on someone's campaign because that's your job. But otherwise, I just think these days that ends up being an unproductive conversation.
Yep, 1,000%. I 1,000% agree. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, and I love that. I love that adoption thing because I adopted, or Kelsey and I, we adopted Grace like 2 months after we got married. Kelsey was like, "Hey, Phil, I want a dog." I'm like, "What?" Because at the time she was working remotely in a job, and then I was working at a on site in an office. And I'm like, "Oh, you think it's like too early for a dog? Like, what's going on?" And we adopted. And we had a lineup of all these. It was like The Bachelor, the Bachelorette show. Like, got a lineup of all these dogs at the foster care, and we picked, or Grace picked us. She was the second to last dog, and she decided to come up to us and lick us. And we're like, "All right, we'll take Grace." And they're like, "Do you want to take her today?" And we're like, "We don't have a cage. We need to, we need to get her room ready and stuff, and then we'll do it." But there you go. If you hadn't said that, there, conversation
Right.
building. That's great. I
Well,
love
my
it.
dog, who's usually laying on the couch behind me, is also a rescue. We rescued her from
Yeah,
Angels Among Us, a local Atlanta rescue.
yeah.
You know, and she's also often a conversation starter because usually when I'm on a Zoom or a live, again, she's like stretched out in the background and she's quite amusing. So,
I love it. And icebreakers are always good too. Like, I love that too. And then yeah, and Jason here too. We had a foster a foster fail with our puppy. Oh,
oh,
oh gosh.
it happens. It's okay.
Oh goodness. I want to flip the script a little bit. So we talked a lot about the job seeker side and the individual side, which is great. And I mean, as we both know, right? Like the job market, I say the job market is complex, right? Like you've got employers who are still looking for talent. You've got all these layoffs happening. Like it's a very complex environment right now in the marketplace. But as we know, right, there are companies who are still hiring. There are companies who are still trying to attract and retain top talent, right? And so on a branding perspective, like specifically with what you do on that side, how can companies get out there, right? And and brand their business in a way, or I should say position, right? We've used that as the word, or you've used that as a very good word, powerful word for your programs. Position themselves to be not only an attractive company, but also a company where job seekers and even customers, right, will remember them and say, "Hey, I remember ABC Media. I want to work with them on a television show that I want to produce or something." You know what I mean? It's like how can they do that? How can they differentiate and show that stuff?
Yeah, companies, and this is companies of all sizes, right? They
Sure.
have an opportunity to really expand their reach by engaging their people. And this doesn't happen very often. So the main reason that I think is the barrier is just that fear factor. Oh, if we encourage our team to be active on LinkedIn, uh, there's two sides of the fear factor. One is they'll get poached,
Right.
people will take them from us. Uh, the other side is we won't be able to control the message as much. But the answer to those fear factors are when you train your team so they understand the company goal on LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn to meet for these reasons. We want to connect with our ideal audience. We want to recruit talent. We want to position ourselves consistently. There's going to be multiple goals because each department is going to have its own unique need. But when they understand the global reason, why is our company using LinkedIn and how do we use it, right? These are the rules of engagement. Not just having a social media policy that focuses on what you shouldn't do, but a policy that talks about what you can and what you're encouraged to do. Right. And so this came up in another call I had recently,
Yeah.
and I called it helping your team to build unique consistency. So what I mean by that is, like we've talked about, right? Your profile is uniquely yours. But if 10 people within a sales team, they don't want to have cookie cutter profiles, right? They need to have the consistency so that the company brand messaging is the same throughout, meaning give them some banners to use, include a tagline with the company name, because a lot of company names, you don't know what that company does, right? There's some very weird company names out there. So if your company name doesn't have, is completely unclear as to what your industry is and what you do, adding a tagline that people can integrate into their headline, and then a boilerplate description of that company that can go into the experience section, so that when people connect to the company page, when they add that role under their experience, they're all describing the company the same way. So that's consistent, but then each person has their unique profile because every person is unique. So really training, I mean, it's just about educating and getting people to understand why LinkedIn is a high value platform for their role, but giving them the permission that they can use it without feeling like they have to be afraid that they're going to be like, well, if I'm too active, they're going to think I'm looking for a new job.
Yeah, no kidding. Those perceptions or those quick, being, I feel like companies are getting better about it. Because I mean, being on the HR side myself, I mean, I used to be under, social media policies, and a lot of them, like you said, you made such a good point where it was like social media policy, like, oh, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, and there were times where I couldn't even post anything unless it was a job posting. But I call those like reactionary, just job post contents where it's like I'm spraying and praying, hey, here's a new role, apply right here, right? But I'm not, cutting those cut and dry posts. So it's like I was at the time I was so limited to like actually doing the content creation and stuff. And yeah, and companies, absolutely, I think a lot more companies need to be more open minded in that arena, and to remove that fear factor on their employees, so that people can not only promote their business, because it's going to get more organic outreach, they're going to get more impressions on their brand, stuff like that, but they're going to be able to share their story in a way that's comfortable to them, but still show that value. We got some other people in the house too. I want to bring some other folks up here. Becky Scott, my awesome friend up in Canada. Phil and Rachel, good to see you, friend. Got Steven saying hi, Becky. We got Becky saying hi back to Steven. Becky Scott, she's a copywriter, one of my really good copywriter friends. She's amazing up there. So important to be consistent with the company, but distinguishing yourself as an individual. Ooh.
Right on. Ooh. And like what I feel like happens far too often is, a company strategy is, okay, team, we have a new post on our LinkedIn company page.
Yeah.
Everybody make sure you like and share it.
Yep.
And like, ugh, boring.
Yep.
So boring.
Been there, done that. I've been there and I've done that. I've done that plenty of times in my past. And I look back, I'm like, what?
Right.
What did I do? Why
I feel like that's such an old-fashioned strategy. It's like you'd be better off identifying 10 people within your organization and like training them and then letting them just do their thing.
Yeah. And I think it also, I've really been on the back end. A lot of people don't know this, but I've been still kind of looking around for a new role, but one of the kind of positions I've been kind of targeting is like a talent attraction, like recruitment marketing role. And I've got a really good mentor of mine, Carrie Cochran, who is incredible. And just we talk a lot about how companies need to have a good EVP, employer value proposition that their employees can understand as well, and those leaders can understand, and kind of going into um, having those employees not only understand the EVP, but to actually share it in a way that Becky says right here, you know, still being individualistic in your content, but sharing that company, experience and stuff like that. Jason
Hmm.
says here too. I think it's those unique. Ooh, I'm in tune with this one because y'all know I'm an opera singer. I think it's those unique voices within the company that makes it interesting. Ooh,
Well,
I
that's how
mean,
you see the culture, the company culture too, right? You get a sense of um, what are the kinds of people who work here, and are those my people?
yeah, I love it. Absolutely, that's huge. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, it helps build the brand awareness, organic and natural and impactful brand awareness. 1,000%.
Yes.
Um, if an employee is wanting to leave, they've made that decision. Post on LinkedIn won't change. Yeah, yep, yep, yep.
Yep.
Steven,
Eh,
yeah. Go ahead.
totally.
Yeah,
No, that's it. I mean, that is so true. If they're gonna leave, they're gonna leave. And also, I've used this. I probably brought this up when last time we had lunch. It's like we
yeah.
don't live in the world of retiring with your gold watch after 35 years. Like that's what my uncle did. Worked for GE for
Hmm.
35 years here in Atlanta. Retired. You know, that's just not the way the professional world works anymore. So
Hmm.
people are going to
Hmm.
leave.
Yeah,
That's just the reality.
I work with
And
them
then
all the
you're
time. Yeah,
right.
that's that's all. Those are all the clients I work with. People that are in jobs and they're ready to leave. They want to make it. They want to pivot up and change their career. Yeah. Stephen, the tension of complying with the company and distinguishing yourself is a symptom of an old fashioned assumption that personal and company brands cannot coexist.
Oof. There's another
Ooh.
post right there, Stephen.
Stephen posted just like that, man. Just literally, boom. Like, holy moly. That's huge.
That's like
That's,
a mic drop.
it is.
Boom.
Mic drop comments. Starting to change. Yeah, absolutely. It is. It is starting to change for sure. Slowly but surely, I definitely in agreement. Um, yes.
It's a
That,
slow change, though. I think it's a slow change. I mean,
yeah.
uh, do you follow Daniel Disney? He's that UK sales trainer.
I've heard of him, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So he's got a massive following on LinkedIn. He's great. He has really good content. And so he had put a newsletter. I don't know if I had gotten it via email or via LinkedIn newsletter with like lots of statistics. And his company page that has a big, a lot of people follow it, had done a poll asking if your company had done LinkedIn training in 2021, or maybe it was last year. I can't remember the year,
Yeah.
but regardless of when it was, 81% of the people who responded said that their company did no training.
Ooh.
And so if only 19% of companies are
Mhm.
giving any sort of training at all, that's a pretty sad uh, statistic right there.
Well,
I
and here's
mean,
the and here's the deal, right? Like, still, word of mouth is still the number one way to market a product, a service, whatever it is,
for sure.
and it is. And so when you've got that, you've got those. I'll go back to Jason real quick, right? So like when you've got the employee wanting to leave, right? Because they feel limited in their career, they feel limited in what they do. The company maybe not be seeing them, hearing them, showing them value, rewarding them for their work, whatever you call it. Number of factors, manager, company environment. There's so many different factors why people leave, right? We hear all the time people join companies, people leave managers. To an extent, I agree, but then you've got other various reasons. There may be personal reasons why the person needed to leave, whatever. If they're limited in their job or they don't feel fulfilled, we'll say, right? That they'll want to make that change and they're going to tell people about it. Like they have every right to. Like they can tell people, "Hey, I'm working at this company, I'm not feeling great about it. Like I want to leave." Or if they've got if somebody on LinkedIn reaches out and they're like, "Hey, I want to know about XYZ company, how's it going?" And they're like, "Well, I'm actually about to leave and go somewhere else because the environment's bad." Then it's like word gets out, right? And so I love the change, right? That Jason said to later, that it is slowly starting to change within, branding and companies, the 19%, of companies that are training and getting their people to to share freely about their brand and being individualistic, as we've talked about. Just amazing conversation. I have 2 pages of notes on this conversation, by the way. I've been writing,
Think of
handwriting. The number needs to increase. So what can we do, right? I want to get deeper on this. It's so important. What can we do, right, to get that number higher, to have businesses out there not only be more open to branding and having their leaders and having their employees, or encouraging, I don't want to say having, encouraging their people to
encouraging.
brand. Yeah. How can we get that number up? And how can we help to eliminate that fear factor and get that fear factor out of the way?
You know, I think that you companies, I think it's going to depend on those internal champions. I truly believe that. So maybe you're a champion for LinkedIn and you feel like your company is missing an opportunity, like making that case to whomever that person might be as to why, right? And I had done some research last summer about on this topic, and I talked to one person who works for a pretty large insurance company, and I was like, "Well, have you ever participated in training?" And he was like, "We did one 3 years ago." Well, 3 years ago is great for 3 years ago, but like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, like there's so many changes. There's over 200 new features in the last 3 years. So a training from 3 years ago is basically irrelevant at this point.
Yeah.
But I think you have to find those internal champions, and going back to storytelling, this is what I did at my former job. I worked in nonprofit. I worked in community outreach, but I had a personal interest in social media. This was in the beginning of like 2010. And I felt like we were missing an opportunity to use social media to tell stories about what my organization did for the community. And I pitched it to my marketing director to let me run it. I'll create the social media strategy. I will run it. There was a fear factor there because they were afraid that if they, at the time, we had a Facebook page with comments turned off because they were afraid of people saying negative things. And I kind of got them to see that you can't create community on social media by turning the comments off. Like it's just not going to happen. I was that internal champion for my organization. And, today they have a great social media strategy. So can you be the champion for your organization to get your higher ups to see their missing opportunity by not encouraging the team to at least be branded for their company and let alone active on LinkedIn?
Because if you don't, then that internal champion will be external like that.
That too.
They'll be external. They'll be internal somewhere else, and they'll be external
That
out of your
too.
business. I love that. That's really powerful stuff. Gosh, I mean, you got me thinking really hard, but you've got me thinking and reflecting really, really just a lot with this today. This has just been so great. I always like to ask my guest speakers, and I appreciate you being on here and just chatting about it because I mean, it's such an important topic for both career professionals, for companies, for job seekers, just for everybody that's on this platform. You've given us so many key takeaways about how to position, how to add value, how to be relatable, how to share stories that are impactful, full of purpose, full of learning, full of community. What would you say if you wanted the audience here to have one like key takeaway from this discussion that we've had? What would that be and why?
Is your profile adequately positioned for who you are and who you want to be working with? I think it's that foundation, and this is what I talk about all the time with my clients and my trainings. Your profile is the foundation of everything you do on LinkedIn. You wouldn't buy a house with a foundation that was falling apart because a beautiful home was built on it, right? So you need to make sure that foundation is strong and is adequately representing you. And because everything else you do will be more, will work better because you have that foundation built. So go back to that positioning. Don't skip step one.
I love it. I love it. It's so huge. Build that foundation, and it takes time. I think when I think about that and building it, be patient on yourself and give yourself grace to build it. Because building a foundation, I was in a Bible study this morning, and we talked a lot about that kind of building blocks of we're in the Bible verse I think where it talks about building a house, and if you build it on sand it will fall, but if you build it on rock it will rise and it will stay tall.
There you
And
go.
yeah, and so but building out that foundation, it takes time because you want to strategically make sure that it's going to stand strong. And it's you know yes, storms will come and challenges will happen, and the house may have dings and cracks on it, but those are repairable, and it's just never ending improvement. But that's such a great, great key takeaway. I'm just, oh, like I love it. I love it. I love you. Like I just appreciate you being here. The audience, everybody listening on the replay and the live, thank you all for being here. Don't leave just yet because I want people to know where they can find you. So we have her LinkedIn page right here, www.linkedin.com/in/RAK Simon. So that's there. Rachel, do you have any like things that you're doing development wise with Connect the Dots that you want to share? Anything that you've got coming in the works?
Um, I have been doing more uh, speaking around Atlanta for my Atlanta people. If you know a group, let me know. I love
Yes.
training groups. Speaking with like a women's leadership luncheon next week, so I'm super excited about that. Um, I am going to be putting together. I will circle back with you offline, Phil. I'm trying to re-engage LinkedIn Local here in Atlanta, and I think I
Mhm.
have a location, and I'm pretty
Yay.
excited about that. And so that I think will be an awesome event. I've been wanting to do that for several years, even before COVID, and this is going to be the year that it's going to happen.
Exciting.
Yeah. So, and got lots of stuff. My LinkedIn profile is the best place to find me on there. I have a link to a assessment you can take called your LinkedIn Leverage Score. You can grab all that on my link tree. But I think I should be connected with most everybody on here that I've seen in the comments, at least.
Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That's got your link trees right there. https://linktlinktr.ee/rsimon99. If you put that in there, if you just connect with Rachel on LinkedIn, she's tagged on this post. You will find her for sure. She is there. And then also too, website, she has an awesome free resources on her website, www.connectthedots, it's two T's, connect THE dot digital/subscribe. So for companies out there looking for some free LinkedIn resources that she has, I've already seen them. They're jam packed full of value. So please go there and get some awesome resources to get started with her there. It's amazing. She offers a lot of nuggets. So that stuff is awesome, awesome, awesome. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can find me linkedin.com/in/Phil-the-recruiter. My website, FulPhillment.com. If you type in fulfillment on Google, man, you'll find me. I'm all over. So I'm
Awesome.
usually I finally got to Google my business page finally. So I was like I need to do that. So or Duluth Georgia Career Coach, you'll find me on there. So I've got a couple updates. I'm finally going to be getting out my LinkedIn newsletter within the next month or so. I said this month, but I know
Yay.
finally, at least in May, it will happen. And I want to just it's just another kind of resource that I'm going to be sharing out there for job seekers and career pivoters and those folks just to kind of have them understand from the eyes of a recruiter like what things are like and how the job search or how the application process is and just all little nuggets that I can share. Um, then I'm also creating a clarity worksheet in May as well. So this is going to be something that for the job seeker that reaches out and they're just kind of like, hey, I don't know what I want to do next. I'm in this kind of job, but I want to do something different. I've come up with a solution, a free little worksheet that I'm going to give out to folks for them to actually reflect on and to complete and to fill out. And so that way, when they fill it out, that we can kind of talk a little bit about their answers and kind of help them there to start out. Because I know clarity is very important when it comes to job search strategy and, of course, pivoting in your career. And so I wanted to add something additional that at no cost to folks out there that can get that in there. So just a couple things happening, but that's all I have on my side. But it's been a pleasure. It's just been so fun to have you here.
Thanks for having me, and we'll get that next, quarter, our Q2 lunch date on the books soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jason, thanks for being here, friend, and hanging on and sharing some awesome comments and stuff like that. Have a good call with your client. Stephen as well. Thanks for all your powerful comments. We really appreciate you, Stephen, Jason, Becky coming in a little bit later. Thank you for being on. Just Brian, thank you for hanging as well. Brian Fink and I are gonna hang out a little bit too. Alexandrino, thank you also tuning in from Africa. Just those folks, everybody here live. If you're listening on the replay, we want to hear your feedback. Please get those fingers ready. Type out some comments. Let us know what you think. We're definitely going to get back to you, and we're going to comment back on the comments that we've had a little bit later today. And with that, we will see you all later on.